Good evening, everyone. I would like to call this June 20th meeting of the Laramie City Council to order and ask you all if you would like to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. City Clerk, you can call the roll.
Gabriel.
Here.
Newman.
Here.
O'Doherty.
Here.
Pierce.
Here.
Richardson.
Here.
Shumway.
Here.
Somerville.
Here.
Cumby.
Here.
Harrington.
Here.
That's 9 present and 0 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. We will move on to public comments on non-agenda items. Any member of the public wishing to speak to the council on any item can raise their hand on Zoom or go ahead and come forward in the room. Before you do, I have 4 folks that have signed up ahead of time. We're going to go ahead and start with them. So Ryan Smith, you're welcome to come up to the podium. Just, if you wouldn't mind, flip the microphone on. Thank you, City Clerk. Give us your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Ryan Smith. I'm a resident of 2514 Dover Drive here in Laramie. My family and I have lived here in Laramie for 7 years. I'm here tonight as a citizen and an unofficial spokesperson for a group of lap swimmers who are disappointed at the moment and for the past several months, honestly, with the unavailability of aquatics amenities at the City of Laramie Recreation Center. For the past year, more or less 1/3 of the time that the facility is open, the aquatics amenities are not available for patrons to use, including all day on Sunday, which of course, you know, for families with young children, that's a great opportunity for them to, in the winter months especially, get out and have their kids burn off some energy. But up until now, the Sunday hours were closed. Now they did open up, when they opened up the outdoor pool for the summer, some hours on Sunday, as well as hours throughout the week, and that's terrific, and we're happy to see the families using that. For lap swimmers, however, who were already blocked out or blacked out of 1/3 of the time, we actually have another 10% fewer hours available for use of those amenities. For example, on Tuesday and Thursday, the lap swimming pool, all 8 lanes are closed at 10 a.m. and don't reopen until 5 p.m. So for those people that wanted to swim, like me, during the middle of the day after we get our work done at home, that opportunity is no longer available. And 5 p.m. honestly is too late for those of us that want to make dinner for our families and do other things in the evenings. So again, with my time running short, what I will do for you all is send you all a proposed letter of instruction as council to review and consider then sending out to Todd. And that involves a couple of elements. One is an amendment to the current schedule to try to recover the hours available for lap swimming. And I've done some calculations and copied some of you all on those preliminary calculations. But what we're really talking about is, you know, about 600 man hours presently to provide all the staffing for the aquatic amenities that are open at the moment, and then maybe another 25 additional hours required to have the lap swimming pool more available than what it presently is. We're talking about like a 3 or 4% increase, you know, very marginal. Likewise, a study of compensation to make sure that we're compensating our lifeguards appropriately, you know, for the state of Wyoming, because I do think we're losing folks, not retaining them due to compensation just hasn't kept up with inflation, honestly. And then just future oversight, I would offer that the City of Laramie Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, of which I'm a member, could provide this oversight as we go forward and look at how we're doing on staffing approaching the fall and winter months. So I'll be happy to send that to you all tomorrow for your review, and I thank you for your time.
Mr. Smith, thank you for taking time out of your evening to join the council. I sure appreciate it and look forward to your email. Next is Betsy Mott. You can go ahead and come forward and speak with the council. You will have 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
Thank you for taking the time for me to speak today. I've come to you to talk about a very underutilized recreational asset that Laramie has, the Laramie River. It's come to my attention that the pieces of the Bath Ranch have been purchased, and that we also have Monolith. I guess what I want to say is I've been taking my friends and family and their children down this river for like 10 years, and I've seen things that maybe nobody else in Laramie has seen. Migratory birds that you only see a few weeks out of the year, just beautiful things and beautiful habitats that you don't realize is right there. And I've had people from the shores call to me and say, where are you putting in? Where are you taking out? I want to do this. And I have to shout back to them as we're going down the river, But I don't feel comfortable telling them where's the good place to get in and to get out, because there isn't a good one. Frankly, getting out of the river is quite sketchy where I go. And what I would love to see is that we open up this recreational asset from Monolith all the way to the city limits and even beyond, because I have maps of all of the city lands that there could be stops, even anchorage points for fishermen. The biggest issue, though, it comes with the obstacles, mainly the fences that are along parts of the river. And years ago, I looked through the whole river of where I wanted to go, and from Monolith to the north of town, there's probably at least 5 fences, and they are quite scary at times, depending on the level of the river. So portage, while we can do that under the state laws, it can be quite dangerous. So I would like to see us work with a lot of the stakeholders, including the boat enthusiasts, the private landowners, and address a lot of these concerns, because I think a lot of us have a lot in common. We want to use this place for recreation. I'd like to see education go into it, and infrastructure to help people with their families get in and out of the river safely. And I guess that's about it. This is the start of it. I know that I've got a lot of backers and fishermen, professionals in town, and even, the owner of the paddle house, Jessica, who couldn't make it here today. We're all incredibly supportive of utilizing this rather hidden gem in Laramie. So thank you.
I sure appreciate that, and thanks for taking time out of your evening to join us.
Thank you. And I will be sending maps.
Okay, great. And if you have something you'd like to leave, you're welcome to leave it with the city clerk if you would like it to be distributed. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll be sending it digitally. That might be
That's excellent.
for everybody.
We will
Thank you.
look forward to it. Thank you. Next up is Erica Schoen. Welcome. Give us your name and you will have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Erica Shane. I've been a Laramie resident for 15 years approximately. I am also here to speak in support of Laramie River access and expanding recreation opportunities for the Laramie community and our visitors. Betsy and I went down the Laramie River yesterday evening, and I just felt really inspired, and when she told me about the meeting tonight and the opportunity to try to bring this up to your attention and just, let the council know that there are citizens that are really interested in engaging and helping support expanding opportunities. I have 2 young kids. I'm from South Dakota, but this is where I call home and I plan to stay, and I just think there's a lot of really exciting opportunities, especially with, the Laramie River and other outdoor areas. With the Bath Ranch purchase last year, I'm aware that the city is looking to expand recreation in the Bath and Monolith Ranch areas, which I think is great, and I would also like to ask that the council start thinking about open river access, not just at the ranches, but between the ranches through to Laramie. There's over 8.5 miles of the Laramie River between Monolith Ranch and Tri-Hydro, where I work, which is a really nice access point or takeout point. And so, it is a really great opportunity especially for families, people with young children, which I know there's a lot of people in Laramie that have families, and it's a great family setting, but also, college kids, others that come and visit. And, I was thinking on the way here, it'd be really nice to have something that's kind of mellow to learn and, start to get experience for those of us that didn't grow up with parents that were river rats. And, I also was thinking about Pilot Hill and what a cool project that has been with the different stakeholders. And we have that land now to the east and northeast of Laramie, and this would expand recreation to the southwest of Laramie, and how cool that would be. And so, I think it's just an underutilized resource, and there's very few people, like Betsy was saying, that actually get out on the river, and I know it's somewhat limited seasonally, of course, as some things are here, but but for those that don't have as much time and resources to go figure out how to make this happen, we'd just really love for the council to start thinking about that, expanding in that way, and I would be willing to engage as a citizen to help scope, what that might look like, and that's what I wanted to say, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shane, and we appreciate you taking time out of your evening and for the offer to continue to make Laramie a better place to live. So thank you. And then, Mr. Martin, I have your name down, but it will be for, I think, the coming item. So I'm going to go ahead, unless you have a non-agenda item, I'll check with you. Okay, great, excellent. All right, any other members of the public wish to speak to the council on a non-agenda item? Please come forward. As is typical, give us your name. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, council. Sorry I was gone last meeting. I just needed a break from the negativity, and I'm sure you guys did too. I'm sure you appreciate me taking a break off. But here I am, bewildered again. I just came over from the county commission meeting where the airport was presenting some of the details about their financials, and they requested $50,000 to replace heaters in their fire safety buildings, in their snow removal buildings. And again, I just want to bring up to your attention how irresponsible it has been for them to purchase this hangar for $105,000, $60,000 over the next comparable hangar, and they have nobody in it yet. I was just told that they're advertising it for $1,000 a month. I was paying under $300. They're not going to get a person to pay that kind of money, but they stated that that was a goal of theirs, to purchase hangars, because that is a main revenue stream they see for the Laramie Airport. And I just think removing privatization of hangars out there is just a terrible idea. There's a lot of people that want to build hangars out there, myself included, but we can't get approval from the airport board to even put structures up out there, which would increase the value that the airport in 25 years could take over. So it just doesn't make sense to me how they can be prioritizing making money at this nonsensical rate while they've neglected their fire safety and ice removal programs, which definitely tells me where I stand in their eyes. They don't care about my safety. They don't care about my well-being or the safety of anybody that tries to land here. They're interested in money, and but they don't have the business sense to see what is economical. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. It's Chris McGlover. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. McGlover. Appreciate you taking time out of your evening to join us. Any other members of the public wish to speak to the council this evening on any item that's not on the agenda? And City Clerk, if there's anyone on Zoom, would you mind letting me know?
Mayor, we have Judy Snoke and Paul Montoya on.
Okay, we will go ahead and start with Ms. Snoke. You can let her into the room.
Okay, now can you hear me?
We sure can. Judy, welcome.
Good. Good. Thank you. It's so good to see all of you. And it's wonderful to see all the participants or the observers in your audience. That's exciting. What I am, not just to compliment you, what I am contacting you tonight about is mosquitoes. They are 100% worse than they have ever been. Last week, when the city sprayed, I think it was on a Thursday night, the mosquitoes were teensy, but they aren't anymore, and they are so numerous. So I do, my request is that the city please up the spraying in the alleys and streets so that perhaps we can get it under control. Do I understand that this is because of the rain? Yes. But boy, I actually swell up with mosquito bites. I guess I'm allergic to them. But anyway, I just hope that the city can take care of all this. But thank you very much for your time. Good luck to you all.
Thank you, Judy, and thanks for taking time to join us this evening. And we share some of those mosquito concerns.
I thought you might.
Mr. Montoya, the floor is yours whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I'm Paul Montoya. Mr. Mayor and City Council members, I'm sorry I couldn't be there tonight in person. I'm in Pinedale today. And I don't want to steal anyone's thunder because I know you've got it coming up, but there won't be an opportunity until after the meeting. But I would like to recognize Louise Johnson, who is going to be recognized as your Rock Star of the Month. I've known Louise for a number of years, and you couldn't ask for a better representation and representative of the city than Louise. I know she is always very positive about what's going on in Laramie, and I just wanted to personally congratulate her. Thank you.
Mr. Montoya, thank you for that. We sure appreciate it. Any other members of the public wish to speak to the council on any item not on the agenda this evening? Go ahead and come forward or raise your hand if you're on Zoom. All right, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and close the public comment period and move on to the Vice Mayor for item 5.
Thank you. I move that the following changes to the agenda be approved. First, to move item 9.k to item 10A. Second, an editorial change to item 9.l to change the date of June 11 to July 11.
Second.
Motion by the Vice Mayor, second by Councilor Richardson. All those in favor of those changes to the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those changes have been accepted. Vice Mayor, back to you to set the agenda.
I move that the agenda be set as changed.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Cumby, second by Councilor Pierce. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda has been set. Council, we're going to move on then to proclamations, public hearings, and notifications. And it's my pleasure to start with a proclamation for the Curmudgeon Society. Whereas a group of 8 semi-retired gentlemen and curmudgeon supporters, known as the High Plains Curmudgeon Society, approached the city of Laramie for the 14th consecutive year regarding community service projects and volunteering their skills, knowledge, and labor for the city of Laramie. And whereas the Parks and Recreation Department developed a list of community service projects and needs that the staff would like to see complete, but due to time and budget constraints have not been completed. And whereas the High Plains Curmudgeon Society worked at a minimum of 1 day each week from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. from January through the end of May for more than 1,000 hours of volunteer community service completing projects. And whereas the community service projects completed by the High Plains Curmudgeon Society included building the surround for the 2nd Street Parklet, constructing new seating options for Laradise Lane, built and installed a specimen drop box for mosquito control, painted garbage cans, and fabricated fabricated new section markers for the Green Hill Cemetery. Now, therefore, we, the City Council of the City of Laramie, do hereby proclaim our sincere thanks to the members of the High Plains Curmudgeon Society, Clint Phillips, Michael Markham, Lowell Bangeter, Donald Gleaves, Donald Soltman, John Duvall, Tom Bailey, and Walt Gasson for their community service and for the City of Laramie, service partners, and our residents, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Laramie this 20th day of June, 2023. And I will invite Lowell up if you have anything to, I'm going to go ahead and recognize the Assistant City Manager. And Todd, while you're standing there, just because you're on the spot, I'm going to go ahead and let you know that the Curmudgeons wanted to recognize you specifically, as well as Scott Hunter, Mike Malloy, and Lonnie Williams for your efforts in putting this all together. So just because you're on the spot there, I'm going to go ahead and give you that good news now.
Thank you, Mayor. I've said it numerous times before, and for new council members, when I left Cheyenne, we were actually kind of hamstrung on the amount of volunteer work that we could use. And to have my chance to spend some time with these gentlemen over the past 7 years has really brightened my lives and actually impacted the City of Laramie in a positive manner and really shown the power and the value of volunteers. If you ever look up the meaning of curmudgeon, it means a bad-tempered person, especially an old one. And these guys do meet one of those criteria, but bad-tempered is certainly not the one. They're an amazing group of guys that I get the pleasure to spend a little bit of time with. And as you see here in the pictures, the first one is the surround before we actually installed it out at Laramie Lane. But those chairs there, before we installed it at 2nd and Ivinson, but those chairs there were some Adirondack chairs that I asked them to build to expand the seating down at Laramie Lane. I'm not sure if any of you have seen that yet, but I expect wholeheartedly with the first farmers market that those will be used heavily. And everything they build is heavy and turns out very nice. And the second one, we did already do a thank you luncheon with the Curmudgeons, and they wanted to invite all their wives to come down and see the 2nd Street parklet because they're so proud of the way it turned out. What you see here is that they took the option to sit on buckets against the wall instead of sit at the parklet and let their wives sit at the parklet. So it just shows the value of what they mean to the community and to their wives. And that picture on the left is the parklet as it looks today. So we're pretty happy with how it turned out. And I'd welcome up Lowell Bangeter to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. I sure appreciate that. And thanks for those notes about the parklet. It is a really great addition to the downtown. My daughter loves it. Welcome, Lowell. Thank you for being here.
I'd just like to say that the Curmudgeons are grateful for the opportunity that we've had to serve the city. I'm going to tell you why we do it. This is our town. Most of us in the Curmudgeon group are over 80 years old, and we've been here for more than 50 years, and we've made it our town. When we had the opportunity to do some community service, there was some skepticism on the part of the leadership of Parks and Recreation at the time, but they decided to give us a chance to serve the community. And once they saw that we were willing to do the things that we could do, we don't approach them about service projects. They approach us about service projects that we can carry out. We're grateful for the opportunity to work with special people who the city employs to supervise the cemetery and the shops and the other people that we work with. We're grateful to those people for tolerating us old guys. Why would a bunch of old guys like us do this? Because we love this town. A few days ago, a man who was instrumental in the formation of our group to an extent passed away. He called this place Laradise. And we feel the same way about this town. We want to continue to serve as we can. Obviously, at our age, we're a little slower at doing some things than other people might be. And yet, we feel good about the opportunity for service. Thank you.
get all you guys up for a picture.
As I scratch my mosquito bites.
Birds of prey.
That's yours. Hey, I noticed the knife out there. Thank goodness.
Which one of you gentlemen would like to hold this? On the count of three, everybody. 1, 2, 3. I was thinking Michael was over here, but I see her over there. 1, 2, 3. Thank you guys. Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
The workmanship is so
It's beautiful.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Of course he was. Doesn't surprise me for a minute.
Also, does it feel me to have the curmudgeon title? They're all the nicest people.
I'm not holding this on you.
I always love starting the meetings that way. We're going to move on then to the public hearing. City Clerk, go ahead and read the notice of public hearing.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing of the Laramie City Council will be held Tuesday, June 20th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. at 406 Ivinson Avenue, Council Chambers, and Zoom meeting for the following purpose. Original ordinance number 2063, amending Title 15 of Laramie Municipal Code for the purposes of updating the notice requirements for annexation procedures due to language in Wyoming State Statute 15-1-402. All information relative to this matter is available for review at the City of Laramie City Clerk's office at 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present or may be represented by his or her agent at the meeting.
Thank you, City Clerk. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak during this public hearing? Come forward if you're in the room or raise your hand on Zoom. Okay, seeing none, we're going to close the public comment period, or the public hearing, rather. And City Clerk, we will move on to the next public hearing.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing of the Laramie City Council will be held on Tuesday, June 20th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. at 406 Ivinson Avenue, Council Chambers, and Zoom meeting for the following purpose. Original ordinance number 2064, adding to Laramie Municipal Code Section 2.60, creating the Laramie Police Citizen Review Board. All information relative to this matter is available for review at the City of Laramie City Clerk's office at 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present or may be represented by his or her agent at the meeting.
City Clerk, thank you. Any members of the public wish to speak to this public hearing? Please come forward, Mr. Martin.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. First, I want
Mr. Martin, I apologize for interrupting you. Could you turn on your microphone? I sincerely apologize for that.
Let's be clear, this ordinance for Police Citizens Review Board, simply look at the title. You are granting this board the authority to review citizen complaints concerning our police department. You are also granting this board power to make recommendations for discipline and/or recommendations for termination of our police officers. Nowhere do you find any requirements for the board members to receive training in human resources relating to police officers. Please consider this before you vote. If a board member leaks a citizen's complaint to the media or to a member of the public, you as a council have no way to hold that board member accountable other than the exception of the city council removing the board member. Statistically, across the country, most complaints filed against police officers are never substantiated, but some are. You risk the reputation of the men and women of the Laramie Police Department. This ordinance has the potential to increase unnecessary litigation against the city. We are being told the Police Citizens Review Board is needed to provide oversight for the police department. This idea is itself a faulty idea. When a doctor is suspected of having acted improperly, he or she can be brought before a medical review board to determine the facts of the case. Those review boards are made up of doctors. Lawyers suspected of improper action are brought before the State Bar Association, made up of lawyers. Other professions, such as registered nurses, have similar review boards made up of men and women in those professions. When it comes to police, though, the plan for the Laramie Police Citizen Review Board ignores the basic principle that review boards are best when they are made up of those who understand the requirements of the job. They know that the standards and can be recognized when they are not being met. Instead, the Laramie Police Citizen Review Board will be made up mostly of a panel of civilians who have never worn a badge or had to make a life and death decision in the fraction of a second, but will be empowered to make these recommendations again for discipline, termination that no not. Can I have just a little bit of time with the mic?
You wrap up your comments if you wouldn't mind, yeah.
Okay.
You'll have another opportunity to speak to the council when the item comes before us.
So, Mr. Mayor, this ordinance adds an unnecessary level of bureaucracy to our city. And I thank you for taking a moment to review my ideas and appreciate other ideas and suggestions as together we work to improve the city. Please vote no on the ordinance for the Laramie Police Citizens Review Board. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Mr. Martin, for taking time to join us again this week. And like I said, you will have another opportunity to speak to the council when the item comes before us. Any other members of the public wish to speak during this public hearing?
I have a question. Right? Hi.
Hi.
Mayor, City Council.
Yeah, go ahead and give us your name.
I would like to know, can you answer me why you think you need the Citizen Council to review the police officers? Don't you have a police chief that you appointed who can do this?
So we don't do a question and answer during our public hearings.
Oh, you can't, so you can't do that? I can't ask that question as to how you decided to
No, sir,
to make this bill.
Sir, you're welcome to ask the question. I'm just saying you will not receive an answer from the council.
All right.
Thank you, sir. And can you give us your name, please, for the record? Sir, can you give us your name for the record?
Ed.
Halfway there. All right. Any other members wish to speak during the public hearing? Go ahead and let the first person in on Zoom, City Clerk. Tracy Rosenland, go ahead whenever you're off mute. The floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Mayor, City Council members, my name's Tracy Rosenland, and I apologize for not being able to join in person tonight, but I do feel this is a very important issue, and I am so grateful to see you continuing to work through and develop what this review board could be. I believe it can be a very positive thing for our community, and that it will improve the relationship between law enforcement and our residents. From my understanding from the ordinance, it did not do things like allow for recommendations of termination or discipline. And so I think that some of the hesitation surrounding it is somewhat misplaced. And I think that this board would provide residents an important voice to be able to communicate with a neutral third party between the Laramie Police Department and them as well, should they have any hesitation communicating with law enforcement officers or the chief of police directly. Additionally, this is the police are able to enforce the laws, and they do ultimately have the ability to use force if that's warranted in a situation, and they do make that decision. And so I think it's only appropriate that our residents also have a say in what the policing may look like. And as a reminder, this is not, as you have mentioned in the previous meeting, this is not an oversight board. This is merely a review board that can make recommendations, which the chief of police and city manager can then decide whether to implement or not. And then just in case anyone doesn't know, I know that we discussed it last time, but that this has been well reviewed for many years. We had the ad hoc working group. I personally was able to sit in on a special budget meeting with the city manager and then chief of police, which I learned a lot. And I just think there's so much that we can do with it. And so I look forward to these discussions this evening, and I will continue to urge you to vote in favor of creating and implementing this important citizen voice in our community, because I do love Laramie. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rosenlund. Any other members of the public wish to speak during this public comment period? I understand there's one more on Zoom, City Clerk. Taylor Norton, the floor is yours.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for allowing me to speak. I want to voice my continued support for the idea of this review board. And I would like to address some of the concerns that were raised by a previous commenter. It is my understanding that there would be a training for anyone who would join the board to sort of get folks in the mindset. I also want to address the claim of doctors and lawyers, whenever they're found or accused of misconduct, they're brought for a panel of folks who are of the same profession. And I understand why someone would make that comparison. However, doctors and lawyers are not employees of the government. And I personally support any and all avenues for the public to have input and influence over people who represent the government, especially those who are able to, take certain actions that most of us would not be able to do. The police are capable of using force to enforce the law. And it's, I think, imperative for there to be some sort of avenue for the public to be reassured that use of force is not being abused by the government. And for that reason alone, I think it's a review board is maybe even the least that we could ask for. And moreover, I don't think that this is simply the city council deciding that this is something we need. This is the city council responding to a request from the community for this type of thing to exist. In fact, my understanding is that the community has asked for more than this, and this to me seems like a compromise, but that's all notwithstanding. Generally, I guess what I'm trying to say is I am cautiously optimistic about the ability of a citizen review board to be able to reassure the public in the police's ability. I understand that there are many folks in this community who feel perfectly safe around the police. I also understand that that isn't the case for everybody, and I would like for it to be the case for everybody. So thank you for taking the time to consider the review board, and I look forward to watching the proceedings as they happen. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. Any other members of the public wish to speak during this public hearing?
Mayor, we have Linda Devine online as well.
City Clerk, please let Ms. Devine into the room. Linda Devine, when you are off mute, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also, thank you, City Council, for bringing this forward again. I'm looking forward to the discussion tonight. As you know, I do support the review board. I do want to say that I had the opportunity after the last City Council meeting when you voted on this to visit at length with the Chief of Police, and I'm really excited about some of the things that he's implementing. I think that the more we know as a community and the more that folks are involved in the community, more understanding, the better this city's going to be. So I'm just looking forward to the conversation tonight. Seems like it's always the same ones that are opposed to it, same ones that are for it. But I really hope that we can all just listen with an open mind and see what we can do to come together and form a board that's going to be beneficial for everyone. Thank you so much. I'm actually headed down there to be in person.
Thank you, Ms. Devine. And by way of clarity for members of the public, I hear some whispering about these things. This is just the public comment or the public hearing. There will be a public comment period on the item when it comes up, just so everyone is clear. And if you can keep your whispers out into the hall, please. Any other members of the public wish to speak during this public hearing? If you're in the room, please feel free to come forward. Okay. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing on this item and move on to 6C, Assistant City Manager. I'm going to go to you.
Honorable Mayor, we've got 5 announcements tonight. The first one will be our rock star that I believe will be presented by Jen Wade tonight.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager. Director Wade.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Councilors. I'm going to spare you my appearance this evening as I'm on PTO, so I'm going to be a black box. But I'm here to talk to you about someone that I care deeply about as a member of my work family, and that's Louise. If you have not read the write-up that was in the Rockstar article, please do so. Louise is a really interesting person, and I think you'll enjoy the article that Nancy O.P. created. What I'd like to say about Louise this evening, just in case you don't know, is she really has been a true and equal partner in keeping the finance ship afloat in the tempest that has been 2021 and 2022. And, you know, honestly, without her on that boat with me, I'm not sure that finance would be doing as well as it is today, for sure. She has just been such a strong partner and colleague in trying to figure out how we move forward when everything beneath us just keeps changing. And honestly, there's no one else I'd rather be that kind of partner with, because she's just a really good person. She's got grit. She's got perseverance. She's truly kind. There's no fake nice with her. She's got high standards. She's generous. She's involved in community. And she's just a fantastic team member who gives her all every day. And she achieves results. So she doesn't just give and get nowhere. She actually finishes strong every time with really work that is perfect. And you just can't ask for more. And we're so lucky to have her. And I'm so lucky to have her in my life through 10 years of working with her.
Director Wade, thank you, and I can certainly understand why you would want to pop in from your PTO for this. So thank
Absolutely.
you. Louise, would you like to come speak to the council at all? No one ever loves that moment, but we sure want a chance.
Honorable Mayor and City Council members, I just express my gratitude, and I thank Paul Montoya and Jen Wade for speaking out from wherever they are. Jen, I hope you're having a great time, and I just want to say what a privilege it is to serve among such a great group of people in such a great community. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, we've got 4 other announcements. They're going to come from here, if that's all right. But we're at that time of year. Freedom Has a Birthday is scheduled and prepared to go from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So we're encouraged anybody that wants to participate through either a booth or concession or any other type of avenue, get registered or make contact with us at fhab@cityoflaramie.org, I think is how you'll get a hold of us. Also, in conjunction with that, let me say Freedom Has Birthdays presented by Rocky Mountain Power this year again, which is second year of 2-year commitment. Fire in the Sky presented by Wyotech will be on 4th of July also. It's our fireworks show. We should have about a 22-minute fireworks show, so look forward to that. We'll be putting out information on how to protect your pets and do some stuff during the fireworks show. We've also released the Plenty Agriculture Design Acquisition RFQ. It's available on the city's website right now, which is a big project for us, so we're excited about that. And then one last thing, it is Mosquito Awareness Week, and I appreciate Ms. Snook's comments. I did find out today, was notified that adult aerial is scheduled for next Thursday, weather permitting. For any of you that have been around Laramie, you know that adult aerial is actually quite possibly the most effective combatant for us. Our trap counts are high. We've been battling wind and rain and cold, and keep in mind that the foggers do have to work at a certain temperature. If it's below 60 degrees, I believe they do not fog because the mosquitoes typically aren't flying at that point. So staff is out doing that, fully functional. They've got a treatment in South Laramie tonight, so hopefully you'll see the trucks out and get some relief from the mosquitoes at that point. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to item 7, disclosures by city council members. Does any member of the city council have any disclosures about items before us this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the consent agenda. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I move that the consent agenda be approved and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Cumbie, second by Gabriel. City Clerk, you can call the roll.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Cumbie.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. The consent agenda has been approved. We will move on to the regular agenda and go to item 10A. Councilmember O'Doherty.
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the city and the county for victim witness services for 2023-2024 and authorize an expenditure of $25,000 pursuant to the MOU and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by O'Doherty, second by Vice Mayor Cumbie. City Attorney, please.
Mayor and Council, I think this was removed from the consent agenda so that the public can be informed a little bit more about this program, and I think it's worthy of that publicity. Crime Victim Witness Services is based out of the county, and they, of course, do most of their work for the county. And what we pay for this reflects the city's portion of the activities they do. And this amount is unchanged from last year. What they do is make sure that victims in the criminal justice system are both informed of what's going on so that they know what's happening and can participate. But second, and often more importantly in our court, it's so that victims can seek restitution. Often in our cases, that restitution is not huge, but as you can imagine, if somebody blows through a red light or a stop sign and runs into somebody else's car, those damages may not be covered by that person's insurance, and they may be out $100 or $1,000 or $2,000. And under state statute and under our ordinances, victims are entitled to restitution. And so that is, and the victim, and this program walks the victim through that, make sure they get their paperwork together, make sure it's properly presented to the court. So it's an important service. Those county folks do a good job for us, and this is what we paid them last year, and they're asking for the same this year. I stand for questions.
Thank you, City Attorney. Any questions, council members? Councilor Doherty?
It's for victims and for witnesses, correct? It says victim witness.
Right.
Yes.
Whatever is needed. I mean, if there are, and I'm speaking only in municipal court, there's often, it's the same person.
Oh, okay, all right.
Most often.
Council members, any other questions? Okay, we will go to members of the public. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak to this item? Seeing none, we will close the public comment period. Back to the council for any comments. Okay, seeing none. Councilor Doherty, thank you for pulling this off. I do think that warranted a little more conversation. City Clerk, you can call the roll.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. Item number 11, Councilor Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to award the bid for the Buford Street Rehabilitation Project to Knife River of Cheyenne, Wyoming, in the amount of $757,842.05, along with a contingency of $75,786 for a total amount of $833,628.05, amend the budget appropriately, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the contract.
Second.
Motion by Pierce, second by Gabriel. City Engineer.
Honorable Mayor, members of council, Buford Street from 7th to 9th Street and then 10th to 13th Street was identified in our payment management system for an overlay. From this, staff moved forward with preparing the project documents and then bidding the project. We received 2 bids for this project, with Knife River being the low bidder, and staff recommends awarding this project, and I can answer any questions you may have on it.
Council members, any questions for the city engineer on this item? Okay, thank you, City Engineer. Any member of the public wish to speak to this item? Go ahead and come forward or raise your hand if you are on Zoom. Seeing none, we will close the public comment period. Back to the council for any comments before the vote. Okay, City Clerk, you can call the roll, please.
Pierce.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. We will move on to item 12, Councilor Richardson.
Thank you. I move to approve original ordinance number 2063, amending Title 15 of Laramie Municipal Code for the purposes of updating the notice requirements for annexation procedures due to language in Wyoming State Statute 15-1-402, as recommended by the Planning Commission on second reading in accordance with findings of fact and conclusions of law.
Second.
Motion by Richardson, second by Pierce. Planner Dean.
Mayor and Council, the item before you is second reading on a text amendment related to annexation. The annexation text amendment is simply helping us align our code with changes made at the state level in Wyoming state statutes. And so if it's your first meeting, I don't think you had many questions, and so I'm here to answer any questions or go through in more detail if you would like.
Thank you. Council members, any questions that have come up since the first reading? Okay, seeing none. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak to this item? Come forward or raise your hand on Zoom. Seeing none, we will close the public comment period. Back to the council for any comments before the vote. Okay, City Clerk, please call the roll.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
City Clerk, I appreciate it. That item has been approved. Item 13, Vice Mayor Cumby.
I move to approve original ordinance 2064 on second reading, adding Laramie Municipal Code Section 2.60, creating the Laramie Police Citizen Review Board.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Cumby, second by Councilor Richardson. Welcome, Chief Brown.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. This is the second reading for this ordinance. I did answer a lot of questions last time, so if there's any more, I'll take those questions. I will point out there were some questions earlier about how this came to be. There was a year-long ad hoc committee with approximately 23 members of the community from various sections of the community, including the university, the police department, several representatives from the police department and city government, council, and local residents. And that at the end of the ad hoc committee, a recommendation was made to create a community and police committee board. And that's where this stemmed from. It is an advisory board. It's an advisory board to the chief of police and the city manager. And there is no access to personnel records, which is consistent with state law. And I'll take any additional questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief. Council members, any questions on second reading? Councilor Gabriel.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just curious, Chief, if you've had any kind of feedback since the first reading. We had a lot of comments, or some comments from the public about this, and I was just curious about maybe your interaction with the public since first reading.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, council member, I have had several questions about the authority of this board, if it is an advisory board, the definition of a review board, and some of the review boards that we've looked at across the nation. There's approximately 440 different types or different review boards and communities throughout the nation, and they range from advisory boards similar to this one, review boards, oversight boards, commissions, police commissions. There are a lot of different types of boards. I look forward to this advisory board because it gives me the opportunity to share what we're doing with the community. And I can tell you, I mirror some of the community members' comments tonight about how good of a police force we have. We have an exceptional police force, and to be honest with you, I'm not afraid to share anything that we're doing because I think that our officers are exceptional men and women who serve the community in an upright fashion day in and day out. And I look forward to sharing that with the members of this board. Like I mentioned before, the other question that I do get asked is, will they have access to personnel records? And consistent with state law, they will not. And the city attorney and I and the city manager's office are all on the same page with that. Legally, it's just not feasible. It's not possible to share that information with the public.
Thank you, Councilor Gabriel. Any other questions, council members? Vice Mayor Cumby.
Chief Brown, I'm just curious how this has been received by your officers at LPD.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, council member, we have had, or Vice Mayor, we have had numerous conversations about this through briefings, trainings. As I mentioned last time, we did have a sergeant's training day where we presented a block of instructions specific to this. And we answered questions, and we kind of gave them some examples of what this type of board looks like across the country. And I had an opportunity at the agency I came from to work on a very similar model of police review board. And the reality is it will have minimal impact on our officers. It will have significant impact on me and our administrative staff, and it really gives us an opportunity to look at what's going on across the nation, share that with the community, give recommendations that hopefully make their way to you, and selfishly, we can use that hopefully to get some new tools, equipment, and policy for our agency. So overall, it's been very positive, good conversations in our agency.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Council members, any other questions? I sense some eagerness to go to the public. We'll come back for comments. So I'm going to go ahead and open. Council members, I do believe Councilor Cumby has an amendment. Would you like to take that now, or should we go to the public? We might take it now so that the public doesn't have to speak to something that may change. So, Vice Mayor, I'm gonna go to you for that amendment.
Okay. I move to amend Section 2.60.010 to make the Chief of Police and the City Manager or their designees non-voting members of the board while retaining the voting status of the other 5 members.
Second.
Motion by Cumby, second by Somerville. Council members, any questions on the amendment? Councilor Doherty?
I guess this is because it's advising the police chief, and the police chief shouldn't vote on advising himself. He could just advise himself. Is that your thinking?
That is correct.
The city manager?
And we present this amendment after consultation with the chief.
City Attorney or Assistant City Manager, can you think of any other boards, official city boards or commissions in which staff members vote?
I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Fiesner because he looks anxious to answer it.
Both of you do.
I can't think of one, personally.
Okay.
Yeah, Honorable Mayor, through you, there are not any boards that I believe that respond to the city that do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think Park Street and Rec Advisory Board, the setup of the Urban Renewal Authority, the Environmental Advisory Committee, the Ranch Committees, the Planning Commission. I don't believe there are any boards where city staff actually sits and is a participant of the board. They may be the executor or the ex officio or whichever, but they're non-voting members.
Thank you. Council members, yes, City Attorney.
I was going to finish to be, I feel like I remember this debate during the Traffic Commission when it was restarted, and I'm not sure how it turned out. I'd have to go look, but I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, they do not vote on the Traffic Commission. That was one I looked up because that's where the question came from in my mind, but I wanted to be sure I didn't miss something. Council members, any other questions? Okay, we will go to members of the public on the amendment. So to be specific, I'm going to go to Ms. Devine and then to you, Mr. Martin. And please keep it to the amendment. You will have a chance to speak to the resolution in its entirety in just a moment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I am in support of the amendment, and the reason I am in support of this is at the end of the day, we're not the ones that would be making the decision. We would be making recommendations that would come before City Council. So I think there may be a misconception out there that, you know, this board comes together and is making all kinds of changes. My understanding is that we would be bringing forth recommendations, and then at the end of the day, that y'all would be the ones supporting it, opposing or supporting it again. So I would support the amendment. It is no reflection or animosity towards the chief or the city manager. I just think that it would be more clean to keep it that way. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, please come forward.
I don't want to speak
to the amendment?
Just
absolutely. Okay.
Measure as a whole.
I will come back to you first when we come back around. Any other members of the public wish to speak to the amendment? Thank you, City Clerk. Ms. Rosenlund, when you're off mute, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the additional opportunity to comment. I'll just keep it short and sweet and reiterate my support for this amendment to the proposed ordinance. As I had mentioned in my initial comments on the first reading, I think that this is generally considered a best practice for an advisory board. So I do urge you to approve this amendment as well as the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rosenlund. City Clerk, did I see one more with the hand up on Zoom? Okay. Any other members of the public wish to speak to the amendment? Seeing none. Oh, yeah. Please come forward, Ed, and give us your last name, if you don't mind.
Hi, my name is Ed Deloe.
Thank you.
I'm opposed to this. I'm opposed to this because a police organization is like a military force. There has to be authority from the top down, not from the bottom up. If you go from the bottom up, you can look at Portland, Oregon, you can look at Seattle, you can look at San Francisco, you can look at New York City, Chicago, Baltimore, Philadelphia. People don't know how to run a police force. The police do. You have a police chief. You appointed him. If you're unhappy with him, get rid of him. But don't take away his authority. Don't do it. It's not good for the public. It's not good for Laramie. I drive the Safe Ride on Saturday nights, and I see these guys out there on the street dealing with the drunk kids. They're wonderful. And they take the bad people off the street. You don't need some college kid going to them, well, I'm going to tell them what to do. Wrong. A bad idea. If you want to pass something like this, I think it should be put on a ballot, and the citizens of Laramie should vote yes or no, whether they want it. This is too big a decision to be made by a group of people that really doesn't know what they go through. I'm opposed to it.
Thanks, sir. Any other members of the public wish to speak to the amendment? Seeing none, we will close the public comment period. Council members, any comments on the amendment, please? Mr. Newman, please.
My question's for the chief, if I could. Chief, do you support this motion?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Newman, I actually do. When I wrote the ordinance or assisted the city manager and the city attorney in writing the ordinance, it actually said the chief or his designee. My intention was to have his designee on the board voting and making advisory comments to myself. It would be a little awkward if I gave a presentation and then sat down to vote on advising myself. I think there probably would be some bias in that for me, so. If that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Councilor Newman, did you have more than one question?
No.
Oh, okay, great. Any other council members with questions on the amendment or comments before the vote? Okay, City Clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. The amendment has been adopted. We are back on the ordinance itself. Council members, no questions at this point, so I'm going to go to the public. We'll have a chance to comment afterwards, but I sense urgency there, and we should let them speak before it's too late. So any members of the public wishing to speak to the council can go ahead and come forward or raise their hand on Zoom. Mr. Martin, thank you for your patience.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council again. Yes, I come and rise against this ordinance. Layers of accountability and oversight already exist. As I explained at the last meeting, the public has the ability to file a complaint with an officer supervisor. The City Council and members of the public have the ability to file with the County Prosecutor's Office or the State Attorney's Office. Even the FBI investigates police corruption. There is even recourse through the civil courts if you believe you have been wronged by the police. At the last meeting, several people commented that they wanted to amend this ordinance to remove the chief of police from the 7-member board, and it happened tonight. In Laramie, we have a tiny but vocal anti-police presence. These are just a few of the amendments they want to propose in the future, and I'll share these with you. They would like to amend this so this board has final authority over police policy, oversight policy, budget, including writing and reviewing. They want the full authority on disciplinary measures and legal recourse, including subpoena power. This is just the start. This ordinance adds an unnecessary level of bureaucracy to our city. I want to share with you a couple things that can be done, and I'm not telling the chief what to do, but in Worland, for instance, I lived there before I moved here, and my little granddaughter, unfortunately, her dad got incarcerated right around Christmas time because he broke probation. But the police and the sheriff's department had a program called Shop with a Cop. Sorry, but my little girl, they didn't have any Christmas because her daddy was locked up and he couldn't work. But police officers and sheriffs took her shopping for Christmas and bought presents for her mom and dad. These are kind of programs that can build positive relationships in the community. They even bought them Christmas dinner. I encourage you to look on the internet. There's a program called National Night Out where the police have block parties and community parties with the residents. There's a club called PAL. It's the Police Athletics League. And I'm sure our chief's thinking of these things. These are things that can be done to build positive relationships, even more, because I feel that this city has a positive relationship with the police and the citizens. You could direct city staff to require public safety fairs with both the fire department, the EMS, and the police, say in a park in the spring, and then in the fall in a school gymnasium, where all the department heads come out and set up tables and explain the different aspects of public safety in our city. That's where you can get a lot of input, because I hear people, they think this is more about communication. But again, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I thank you for taking the moment to review my ideas and appreciate other ideas and suggestions as we strive to improve our city. Please vote no on the ordinance for the Laramie Police Citizens Review Board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Forgive me, my microphone was off. Thank you, sir. Any other members of the public wish to speak during this public comment period? Ms. Rosenland? When you are off mute, the floor is yours.
I apologize. I didn't realize I was in the room already. Thank you.
The clerk is on it.
Thank you very much. I just want to leave you with, this one closing comment. Laramie is a really important community. It's where I have made my home for over a decade. It's where I've raised my kid. And I like to think about stuff really locally. I think that this review board has been tailored and created to fit our local community. And the Laramie Police Department does have a lot of community outreach efforts that do help improve ties. However, I had the opportunity to speak with the chief of police after the last meeting, and I appreciated his time in our conversation. And I had mentioned to him the Zen City survey that was just completed about the city of Laramie, and specifically the parts about the Laramie Police Department. And yes, the LPD does do a lot of outreach with the community, but there are portions of the population who don't feel that same camaraderie or reassurance around them. And I believe that this review board, at a minimum, would provide a place for some of these other community members who fall into specific economic demographics and ethnic demographics, for them to be able to reach out and be communicated with residents who may not often feel that same outreach. And so again, I just look at this as a wonderful opportunity, and I'm so grateful for Chief Brown's efforts in this and his recommendations in this. And I fully support this, and I hope that you will as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to speak to this item? Go ahead and raise your hand if you are on Zoom. If you're in the room, go ahead and come forward. Ms. Devine, please.
You know, when I come up here, I don't have data or anything. I just speak from the heart. And I wasn't planning on coming up this last time, but just listening to Tracy, there are people in this community that don't feel safe around police. It doesn't mean that our law enforcement is out there actively doing something wrong. I see a review board is maybe giving input to law enforcement to hear some of the marginalized community members that do feel unsafe. And it's hard to get up here sometimes when you hear folks talking about that because we're supporting this board, that we're anti-cops or anti-police. Do I think policing should be different? Yes. Do I think that we're moving in directions where we're trying to focus more on community building? Yes. Trying to decriminalize some things? Yes. But just because we were wanting change does not mean that we hate cops. And that's where I get really frustrated with sometimes. And I would hope that we can continue these conversations. I'm tempted to turn my head around because I don't want to direct my comments to anybody. But we've got to be able to start communicating with each other and recognize that just because you have this belief and you have this belief doesn't mean that we can't come together and talk about some things and try to figure out the different views and why do we have those views. And I know I'm going off on a tangent again like I usually do. So once again, I ask you to support this, and I thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak to the council on this item can go ahead and come forward. Welcome back, former Councilor Schuster.
Thank you. Brian Schuster, citizen of Laramie, and I hear people talking about this. Don't even really want to give away my age, but my parents moved me here in the 1960s. Been a part of Laramie, went to Slade Grade School, the old one, the Civic Center Junior High, and the old high school that's been torn down is now the new Slade. So I've been around here a long time, took some university classes, got a degree elsewhere, didn't get it here, moved away for a couple of years and then came back. So when people talk about decades, yeah, I've got decades here. And I was told when I took the oath of office, we were the review committee. Now I see that you guys kind of want to spread the wealth out, give some other people in there. I hope when you do the interviews to these, that you do them equally. I mean, I realize it's just like council. We have several people on one side, the other side, and that's why we had a council. We had 9 people. Only having 5 on here makes me a little nervous, but I'll just say that. Will I apply for it? Probably. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people applying for this because I feel you're going to vote in favor of it. When it was voted on over a year ago, it failed by 1 vote. Maybe it'll pass by 1 vote. Maybe it'll pass by several votes. I don't know. But we're going to see how it goes and what actually happens here, because people are going to talk about it one way or another. It's going to sound terrible, but there are going to be people that be upset and there's going to be people that be in favor. Well, this is why we do a vote. I like the other person's statement. I wish the citizens of Laramie would vote on this, but I wish that on about 80 different items that I was on council with, is I wish the cities of Laramie would vote on it. So I think that's the best way to get a lot of things done, but we can't do that. We can't say, okay, we're going to have a vote this month on this, next month on that. It'd be great if we could, because we'd actually get the public's input. There's the old joke about squeaky wheel gets the grease. Well, I say that at my job even too. So if you complain enough, you're going to get something done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Schuster. It's good to see you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak to the council this evening? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. There's no one else on Zoom, City Clerk? Okay.
Not that I see, Mayor.
Thank you. We will close the public comment period. Back to the council for any comments. Councilor O'Doherty and then Councilor Shumway.
Former Councilor Schuster, this is not the thing that failed. This was the thing that we agreed to. And I'm trying to find the wording because, as I recall, it was a community relations board, because what we understood is that a part of the population doesn't know all the good things that our police department does. A part of our population, when they hear use of force, picture somebody kneeling on somebody's knee when the police chief has explained what's called use of force, like if they put handcuffs on somebody. So if more people understood what the police do, then we could have a better community relations. So I think it's unfortunate that it's called review board, because I thought it was more relations. And the things that Mr. Martin brought up, to me, are exactly the kinds of things that a review board could make suggestions, or the police chief might say, what if we do this thing and put it in front of this review board so they can say, oh yeah, or they could say, you know what, if you offered to take my granddaughter shopping, she would freak out. You know, like, it's a sounding board, and that's all it is. It's not using review, it's not an oversight board. So I support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Shumway.
Thank you. Last week, I gave a little bit of history about two men, one Con Moyer, the other Asa Moyer. One was self-appointed chief of police, the other self-appointed mayor. And the citizens, the concerned citizens, for good reason, was not happy with either of them. They took them about 5 blocks from here down I think it's like 5th and Thornburg, and hung them. Now, we have at least 12 departments in the city of Laramie. Let's say this group decides we're going to get the police fixed. Next, we're going to fix the fire department. Next, we're going to go after the city manager. Next, we're going to go after the public works. Then we're going to go after Parks and Recreation. We're going to have all these different boards to tell them how to run their departments, because we're not happy with snow removal. We're not happy with mosquitoes. We're not happy with the roads and the potholes and this and that. And we're going to tell them, and we're going to get it fixed. Well, we have that board already. And every 2 weeks, we have public comments twice. In fact, it's almost every week, public comments where they come and say, we are not happy with mosquitoes. We are not happy with, this and that in each different department. But the responsibility is not to micromanage the police department, the fire department, the Parks and Recreation, Public Works and all that. It is, or the administration. I know that there's a move, for us to have a strong mayor instead of a city manager. Well, if you want to form a committee, that probably would be something that would push them out and change everything. Right now, I think what we have is we have an outstanding police department. We have outstanding departments throughout the city of Laramie. And if there's problems, we can fix them. But come to public comments, bring your ideas, bring your complaints, bring them to the city council, and then hold us responsible to do what we've been elected to do. I don't want to, and that's why I brought it up the first time. I don't want to have a group of concerned citizens come in and say they're going to take over running the city and running the different departments. we already have a method of doing that. It's called, electing a city council that's responsible to them. And then also, we are responsible to make sure that we listen and do whatever we can. Solve as many problems as we can, and then listen and try to do the best we can. I voted a soft yes last time on this. I'm going to vote no this time, because I don't think we're doing what we've been asked to do, and that is to listen and to communicate with our city administration, with our fire department, our police department, our parks and rec, and all those. And if we're not doing that, and they don't think we're doing it sufficiently, then maybe we need to be removed. Maybe we need to have a group that comes in that tells us how to run the city council. So I'm going to vote no.
Thank you, Councilor Shumway. Any other questions, Councilor Gabriel, and then to you, Councilor Newman.
Thanks, Mayor. I mentioned last time I was somewhat on the fence on this, but after hearing the comments tonight, public comment from Mr. Martin and all, I'm kind of in the camp with Councilor Shumway. However, I hear from Chief Brown, and this is going to be one tool in his organization, I think, that's going to make Laramie a little bit better when it comes to the police department. And so I'm leaning towards supporting this again, especially because the amendment that we passed of having the city manager and the police chief non-voting members. So I think I will leave it at that for right now.
Thank you, Council Member. Councilor Newman, and then to the Vice Mayor.
This probably isn't going to come to any surprise, but I will still not support this right now. However, I do have a meeting coming up with some citizens, and one of the reasons why I will not support this is most of the public comment that I have got on the streets has been not to support this. I do have a meeting coming up with the chief of police to run some, have some questions and answer kind of thing going on. But I hate, I hear everybody's concerns, and I'm starting to be on the fence too, to be honest. So I probably won't support it tonight, but we'll see what happens going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Newman. Vice Mayor Cumby.
I do want to point out that this is intended to be an advisory board, a tool, a window into the community, a pathway for communication. It is not, nor has it ever been presented as a fix-it board. This process has been going on for over 2 years. It has included a wide variety of individuals from our community in the ad hoc Police Community Relations Board. That included law enforcement, lawyers, academics, regular people. It was a broad representation, and they brought us recommendations. We voted down an overview board because we did not want that type of process. We did vote for a police community board to work collaboratively with LPD. In my career as a professor, as a teacher, I probably taught over 1,000 undergraduate nurses, hundreds of graduate nurses. Every one of them, for every course I ever taught, gave me a review. And because of that review, and I received evaluation on my teaching, in my 25 years, I became an award-winning teacher because I got that feedback and I grew over those 25 years. And I think that that feedback's very important to growth and into developing understanding, as Councilor O'Doherty talked about. I think so many people have no idea what the police do, how involved they are, and some of the misperceptions that happen among people. And I've been very impressed with the chief when, I hope I'm okay telling this story, but there was a complaint when a woman was stopped that the officer was rude. Well, the chief reviewed that with her. When she saw the film, the video, she said, gee, that wasn't the way I remembered it at all. And so that communication, she walked away recognizing that the officer wasn't rude. And I just appreciate the chief taking that time and having that kind of attitude to educate people, to work with people, and to build our community. So I will be voting for this. I think it's important, and I think it offers a valuable input to the chief.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other members of the council wish to speak? Yeah, Councilor Richardson, please.
Just quickly, I mentioned last week that I was just so pleased with our police department right now and with Chief Brown, and that is still the case. He and the team have done excellent outreach, and again, this is another opportunity to continue that. It also sets a tone for the future. As much as I'd like to think Chief Brown will be here forever, he will not. Someday he'll retire, someday he'll do something else, right? So if we're building these relationships now, and we're building some sort of a structure that provides some greater communication with community, and he's able to bring some really interesting things forth to help build that community, look at interesting programs, then I think that's a great structure to have in place now. He has experience with it. He can help set it up in a way that it continues to be really impactful and positive for the community.
Thank you, Councilor Richardson. Any others for the first time? Councilor Newman, is your hand up for a second time?
Yeah, I forgot to say something.
Floor is yours, no problem at all.
Awesome. I'm wondering if somebody should put a motion together, and I was trying to put one together, and maybe changing this from a citizen review board to a citizen outreach board, because I wonder if the public is getting caught up on the word review when it comes to this, and we've heard from the chief that they won't be able to look at the department records for the personnel and whatnot. So I wonder if that's something that we should do. And second part is just to remind and mirroring what you said, Mayor, last time, is we don't hire the chief of police. So there was some citizens that said, if we have a problem with it, get rid of it, get rid of him. That's not an easy task for us, as we would have to do some other stuff as well. So something to think about. Thanks, bye.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember O'Doherty.
And I would move to replace the word review in the title of the board with
Relations?
outreach.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by O'Doherty, second by Newman. Council members, any discussion on the amendment, which, council member, could you restate that for me one more time?
To replace the word review with the word outreach for the title of the board. Mr. Mayor, I would like to hear if that change, what the chief thinks of that.
And council member, before the chief, I would have a question maybe for the city attorney, and I don't, or the city clerk. This can go to either one of you, but does that then change? I mean, I don't know what our rules are on whether the title needs to be germane to the actual ordinance, because the list of things in the ordinance are not necessarily germane to the term outreach. Because if you are reviewing use of force, that has nothing to do with outreach. And so that's my I honestly, I'll be honest, I don't care what this is called. If you think that's a good direction, you and Councilor Newman, that's fine with me, but I don't know what our rules are on whether it has to be germane or not.
I would argue that it is, oh, sorry.
Please, yeah, please.
That it is germane because it's outreach to the community about what do you think about this thing. So to me, it makes it more understandable because people keep hearing oversight when that is not it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor. I appreciate that. Council members, any questions on this while I give the city attorney a minute? And you can.
If I may, Mayor, and the clerk can certainly chime in, but a name change doesn't change the substance of this ordinance. So you've had your reading, you'll still have your 3 readings of the substantive ordinance. I'll note that the title was not, I don't think that's the only place in this ordinance, is it? I have to look, that the title is used. So I'd prefer the chance to think about it until 3rd reading. I don't think substantively it matters. You're still passing the same ordinance, which what you call it is immaterial.
Okay, thank you, City Attorney. Yeah,
I'd
Councilor.
like to withdraw my motion for consideration by the city attorney.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Newman, do you concur with the withdrawal?
I'm okay with it till 3rd reading, yes.
Okay, thank you both. I certainly don't mean to attempt to persuade you in any way. I would be fine with this if you all want to bring that back. All right, council members, any other discussion on this item before we move to the vote? I would say, I've had one thought on this, Councilor Shumway, that when you were speaking, it did give me a moment of pause. And, the vice mayor, I don't know that it gave me enough to sway me one way or another, but it gave me something to think about. I think it's the vice mayor saying it's not a fix-it board stuck with me a little bit. That sort of swayed me back. But I think the thing you made me think about, we had this conversation at length about an oversight board. And, maybe that was the wrong thing. Council clearly thought that was the wrong thing. I voted in favor of it. I lost that vote. This process is messy. Sometimes it's unfortunate that you have to, sort of make what I would say was maybe a mistake on my part. None of us are professional politicians, right? So maybe that was trying to attempt to make a sort of like a fix-it board but this is not that, and this has come from a much more Laramie-centric process, and I think for a lot of reasons, this is the outgrowth of the things that we're hearing from the public that we should be doing to build things for sort of like increasing how robust our city is, and I think you can think of a number of processes. So our Natural Resources Department has the Environmental Advisory Commission. Those exist in that office, in the city engineer and public works. We have them for Parks and Rec. We have them for all kinds of things. This is that. There is not even a process for, like our planning commission is more of a consequential board than this because they can sit as the Board of Appeals and actually make decisions. This board cannot. This board can tell the chief, we think you might look into this. And the chief can decide what to do with that. And then that, just so that it's clear for the public, that doesn't come to the council for review. That's going to come to the Civil Service Commission for review if it's a training process. So it is then entering another part of the city that is staffed by civilians intentionally. I think this conversation is so nuanced and so in the weeds that sometimes it is a challenge to comment on, I think. It's understandable why we keep getting sucked back into calling this an oversight board, right? Like it's for me, it's easy to see how you could slip back into that. And to some extent, I regret that we went down that path to some extent because it muddied the water for what we're trying to do now. And I think this is valuable. So I will be supporting this. I hope you all will join me, but vote however feels good to you. Councilor Shumway.
Just quickly, this is a difficult topic for me and for all of us. I see it right now as, right now we have an oversight target of one department in the city. We could have dozens of oversight groups that would focus on fixing or advising or consulting or whatever you want to do, but the focus right now is on one of our departments. And I think we have abdicated our responsibility, and so I'm going to continue to vote no.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilor Doherty.
Just tonight, we heard from a member of our rec board who was advising us to change our hours he wasn't representing the board, but he's on the board, and he feels very strongly about that. And the board is advising that, but it's up to our rec center manager to figure out how to balance lifeguards. So, and the Environmental Advisory Board, the Planning Commission, the Monolith Ranch Board, so we have all of these boards. And so this is, one of the, we even have fire code, and anyway, so I don't think it's targeting. We have great confidence in our police chief and our police department. It's just a way to increase the conversation with the public. And most of us here, we don't have run-ins with the police. I got pulled over one time for ice on my windshield. But I don't spend a lot of time at the bars and, staggering around downtown. But, we're not the most representative in terms of run-ins with the police, right? So I feel like it's better to have our ears open and have a conversation, and this gives us that opportunity. And in advising, it's not like targeting, and it's not an oversight board, just like it's not an oversight board for Parks and Rec. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other comments, Councilor Pierce, please.
Yeah, thanks. I'm not necessarily fond of the word outreach. So if we could think about relations, I think that would be great, too. In terms of any other comment, I think it is very nuanced. And we did vote previously regarding the oversight board a year ago, however long ago that was, and we voted it down. And I want to be clear to people, what we're voting on tonight, is not that. This is a board to talk about programs related to Shop with a Cop or other ideas or relations. Every member of this board is going to have to go through a training, 20 or 40 hours, or I can't remember exactly,
That's right.
Which is really amazing, which is exciting to go through this training and get just a blink or a glimpse into the life of what our amazing police officers do every day. I think we as council, I think maybe we should do that as well. I think that would be kind of fun, just so I don't have to jump over something. But I think it would be good. But anyway, I'm going to support this because this is not oversight. This is just community relations. This is having discussions. This is training and talking and communicating and transparency. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. City Attorney, there's one line that I'm wondering about, maybe this being the section, so it's 2.60.30, it's almost the very bottom. And I'm curious if maybe this is where some of this confusion is coming from, and I just wonder if you could maybe help me better define it. The line is, the board shall promote the highest principles of professional police conduct, including but not limited training, hiring practices, policy, consistency in policing, community relations and outreach, use of force, and review of citizen complaints. Are we talking about in this section to promote the highest principles in these areas, or we're saying this board will be doing these things?
Give me the sentence. I'm reading it right now.
It is the second sentence. It starts with "the board shall."
The board shall promote.
Yep, that sentence. I'm curious, the question is, are we discussing the board shall promote the action of the board is to promote these principles, not to engage in, let's see, training, hiring practices. Like, we're not asking this board to hire, fire, train. We're asking this board to promote better practices of hiring, firing, training.
That's exactly right.
I wanted to just clarify that because I think that's consequential, and I think you could see why members of the public might read that and think, oh, this board will be hiring, firing. And so I just, I was reading this again for the 800th time and wanted to just clarify that. Thank you, City Attorney. Councilor O'Doherty?
I think a good example that Vice Mayor Cumby brought up, that the police chief tells us, yes, we had a complaint. Somebody said, the officer was rude. And I reviewed the tape, we could tell her age, the video with the complainant. I mean, that's the kind of process. It's like, oh, you'll talk to the person that made the, complaint and, see how that goes. It's not, we take the complaint, although as counselors, we do hear complaints and we pass them on. And that's part of just being a counselor. People want us to fix everything in the city. So I think that is a good example. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other comments before the vote, Council? Last chance. Okay, City Clerk, you can call the roll. This is on second reading.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
No.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway.
No.
Somerville.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 7 yeses and 2 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved on second reading. It will come back in 2 weeks for members of the public interested in following this item. We will then move on to public comments. Again, non-agenda items here at the end. Any member of the public wishing to speak to the council can raise their hand or come forward if you are in the room. Okay. Seeing none, we will close that public comment period. Council members, any future work session topics of interest? Councilor Richardson.
I had just mentioned that housing study. I would at some point love to have the planning and zoning folks come in and review kind of what the recommendations were by that organization who did some research on it and see kind of where Laramie sits and what we're doing and what we're trying and what does or doesn't perhaps fit for us.
I would like that as well.
Okay.
I would support that.
And that was the presentation that was presented to the Planning Commission?
So I'm sure they have received it as well. It's a study that that the Wyoming Business Council brought folks in from Harvard to do study across Wyoming on housing. And so this was their findings. And
so it's different from...
Different?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We could combine the two.
Okay.
And I have no timeline for that, just whenever.
Yeah, that sounds great. Any other work session topics, council members? Okay. Councilor Pierce, to you.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Pierce, second by Gabriel. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, council members, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.